big welcome to the social review, How Business Can Do It Better in 2020. I'm Ailsa Page and I'm here with my colleague Jo Saunders. We're doing the east-west thing, which is I'm coming from Melbourne and Jo is coming from Western Australia. And we are excited to be doing a bit of a review on social media in 2019 and then looking at how this can make you in your business do it a bit better. So I just want to say that, look, I'm not going to leave you in the lurch. We're going to be providing you with lots of information on the webinar, but we also have some resources that we're going to let you know about at the end. And the good news, as always, we usually have a bit of a freebie, so there's something to hang on to, to join us for the whole of the webinar. It does go for an hour. I mean, if we finish a bit early, I guess woohoo for everyone, you can be gifted some time, but we're going to do our presentation and then we're also going to have some questions, which I'll open it up to some questions. So please, if you have got some questions, feel free to write them as you go along and we will absolutely get to them at the appropriate time. All right, so I think let me just first of all introduce my gorgeous colleague, Jo Saunders. So Jo Saunders is an international LinkedIn expert, digital marketing strategist, and social media educator, guiding businesses in the era of social business. So welcome, Jo. Woohoo!
Well, thank you for having me. It's always fun to collaborate from across the country. That's always good. So this webinar, as Elsa said, is being recorded. So if you have to nip out and go to the loo or deal with your dog, or, hopefully my dog won't bark, but you never know. That's all good because the session's being recorded. Oh, you might just want to revisit something we've talked about. So it's all good. Now, if you've got any questions, do ask them, put them into the chat box. There's the chat area, but there's also the questions area. So you pick and choose which one. Questions probably makes more sense though. Now, you've heard Elsa. So if you don't know Elsa, you need to meet her. Elsa is known as the marketing dynamo in small business marketing. She's an expert at this, helping businesses navigate the marketing maze and improve their bottom line. So thanks for joining us both. So we like to call ourselves Sherpa and Demystifier, or Sherpa and Misty, code name. Look out for the podcast soon. But we're really looking forward to helping you get really good at your social media this year, or get off.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've basically got 40 years of experience collectively, and Jo's really a bit of the how girl, and I'm a little bit of a why girl. So if you like, we sort of take those different approaches and we apply them to social media. I always want to know, well, why should we do this?
and I just said, get in there. Let's work out how to do it better.
Yeah, so there we go. So hopefully you'll find some great value today. All right, well, look, we might just get this show on the road. So what we really want to do here is to do a bit of a reflection on 2019, because really to move forward in business, we really need to do both, a review of your business last year, even a review of your marketing, and definitely a review of your social media. It's so important to do that reflection, because it's only then that you can come up with a really good way forward that's actually an improvement. And that's one of the things that really is a success factor in business, is continuous learning and review to then create continuous improvement. So what we're going to look at doing is start with a review. But one of the things that you can always look at for yourself in business is looking at things like, well, what worked well in your personal social media? What got in the way for you from getting the results you wanted or doing what you wanted to do in social media? And then finally, what did you actually learn from what didn't work? There's some good questions to think about when you're setting your strategy for next year. But righty-ho, let's get right into looking at some of the big changes that happened in social last year. So I might start off with you, You, Joe?
Yes, yes. So they have every year there are big changes, not only to the how the platforms work, but there's even new platforms, and we'll talk about it, a couple of the newer ones. But let's start with LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is, well, for me, it's what I focus on. It's the platform I'm really passionate about, but also that it's finally catching up with some of the other networks in terms of functionality. So if I think about, well, what's new to LinkedIn, I'll talk about features first. So LinkedIn finally has reintroduced events. So now you can add your event to LinkedIn through your profile. You can invite your network to the event. Now that sounds pretty exciting. I'm pretty excited because I run events, but it's a little bit underwhelming at the moment. So I'm looking for the functionality to come in, but it's certainly a great start. So you can use it
So
to
when you
promote
say
your.
it's over underwhelming, Joe, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that the actual software that they're using is a bit underwhelming, or it doesn't integrate with other sort of event software, or it's just not being used? What do you mean by
Bit
underwhelmed?
of, well, pretty much all of the above. So the internal functionality, it sort of sits to the left-hand sidebar. So where you've got your groups and the hashtags, events sitting there, and that's how you add them. Now, you can, when you invite people, people get notified, which is great. But it's not like Facebook events. I mean, Facebook events, you can do a whole heap of stuff with them. Now, when you invite people on LinkedIn, you can put a booking link. So it integrates. I'll say integrate using that term lightly. It integrates in the sense that your link to, say, Eventbrite is there, so people then can book. Because people saying they're going to an event on LinkedIn doesn't mean they're actually going. Just as Facebook, often you say you're interested in going, but it doesn't actually mean you're really going.
No.
It just means, yeah, I'll put someone on my radar. You still need the booking link. But there was some talk about an Eventbrite integration, which Facebook has. So that's still to come.
Right.
But the big one is uptake. Because LinkedIn don't do these big announcements about new features, they rely on their users to kind of just, they're curious users like me to share them. So not a lot of people are using them. So it's not a wide stream feature, but it's got potential. So I'm excited because I think events is a big part of, well, it goes well with social media. Yeah. Now, the other feature I want to talk about is LinkedIn Live. Now, LinkedIn Live was introduced early last year to 6 people initially, and it's sort of been spreading. Now, I've applied, I haven't got access yet, so I'm waiting. So they're really just giving it to a few people who are doing live streaming on other platforms or doing video really well. But what I love about that is that they're focusing more on high quality content, and it's not something that I'd be recommending to everybody though, because it takes a bit of thought, particularly on a professional platform with as much reach as it has. So you don't just live stream from the platform like you do on Facebook and other platforms. You have to use third-party software, which keeps the quality higher in terms of the look and feel, but you still need to really think strategically about how this fits into your brand, because people aren't going to watch long videos. And with video on LinkedIn, I mean, LinkedIn video was introduced a couple of years ago. A native video can be 10 minutes, which is way too long. It's a news feed, just a side point. LinkedIn Live could be an hour, it could be longer. But you've got to think about, are people going to tune in for that long, in the home feed? So once again, you've got to think about it. So you can apply, and if anybody wants the link to apply for LinkedIn Live, I'm happy to share that. So that's one feature. So Elsa, would you be using it,
I
do
don't
you think?
know. I mean, one of the things I'm finding with LinkedIn at the moment is I'm seeing a real uptake in traffic and posts, and it seems to be becoming a little bit noisier. And I sort of am finding uh, yeah, look, I still feel that for my client base, and this is where it's, I guess, very important always to think back to, well, who are you trying to engage with there? I think a
Mm.
lot of my client base are really, they look at things once a week. So I don't think they do their, okay, I'm going to look at my LinkedIn now rather than I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So I'm not sure that live would perhaps work for me. I'm not convinced yet. I think personally, no. So for me,
Mm.
at this stage, no.
Yeah, and it's not getting a lot of visibility in terms, because there's not many people using it. You're not seeing a lot in your home feed unless you're following people that are using live. Some of the marketers and influencers in LinkedIn. So That's one feature. And the third one I want to mention is company pages. Now, company pages have been a bit sort of also underwhelming, a bit boring. They are essential for every business, and there's many reasons for that. But here's the game changer. They finally added a way to change your voice from the home feed. So you don't have to go to the page anymore and post on the page as the admin and then faff around to look at the page as you, to interact personally, you know, and also sharing other people's stuff. So there's a few additions. I created a video about this. So now you can be on the homepage of LinkedIn where that post box is, and you can, where it's got your name, you can select a company page that you're an admin of and post on the page there. So it's really super easy. But you can also immediately comment as you personally, because sometimes you want to amplify it to your network. But also, here's the biggest game changer. Sharing other people's content to your company page was always a kerfuffle. I wanted to say the word kerfuffle, so I thought I'd just throw it in there. So you had to get the URL and mess around and copy and paste. But now you can go to any post on LinkedIn and hit the share and change the voice to your company page. So that's a game changer for company pages. Now, if you're a small business or a business of one, you might be thinking, is it worth me investing time in a company page? Well, having a whole content strategy there, maybe not, because people connect people. But if you've got a team, you know, you work for a slightly larger business, or you're building your business brand, then absolutely you want to put some time into a content strategy.
Yeah.
So they're the three
Okay.
main things I want to talk about. I mean, there's lots more, but they're the main things I wanted to mention.
Well, the only other thing I wanted to mention about in LinkedIn is the increase in use of pods. And I'm not sure if any of you are aware of this, but this is like a bit of a strategy to get greater traction on LinkedIn. And it's really having a group of people together, and, you know, who all sort of agree to support each other's LinkedIn posts, and at a certain time to kind of, you know, work the algorithm, they put posts out and they all answer and, you know, like and engage with each other. I mean, to me, this just feels incredibly manufactured, and kind of, it ends up just being sort of fake PR to a certain extent. But I mean, it's also, I guess, the way that you make LinkedIn work for you. Have you seen that happen a lot, Joe? And what are your thoughts on pods?
Oh yeah, this is quite a hot topic, and I've got a YouTube show called The Connection Couch, and we've recorded an episode, so that's coming very soon. And I do talk about pods a fair bit. Now, pods, yeah, you're right, it's manufactured engagement. Now, there are good pods and bad pods. I mean, and the word pods, I mean, the term for pods really started with Instagram. It was massive over there, all the influencer marketing stuff and creating that sort of what I like to call fake fluence. I don't think, yeah, that's a word I've created for myself, fake fluence.
Okay.
You're feeling really important in your own lounge room, essentially. But pods. Now, pod's done well, and I don't like the word pod. I would call it more an engagement group. Is where you've got a group of like-minded people, you've got a very similar audience, and you agree to engage in each other's stuff without any rules, without any discipline. It's just here's something you might be interested in, and you share, you might share the link. Now, I would just do it here and there, but pods at their essence are generally a large group. Sometimes you pay to be a member. There are strict rules about engagement, like engaging within the first hour, because that is important to LinkedIn. I absolutely agree with that. But when you engage with stuff from people in a different country, in a different industry, who don't have your networks, you're just creating a load of fluff and noise, and you're adding to the noise of LinkedIn, which is not, it's all about relevance. So that's what I'm saying. Pods, I wouldn't be investing a lot of time in pods, because you're gonna spend, half an hour every day keeping up with all the different people in the pod, rather than
And kind
actually
of doing
talking
everyone
to
else's
network.
marketing. Yeah,
Pretty
it's
much, rather than
like,
talking
yeah,
to people that matter in your own network.
yep, yep. Okay,
Yeah.
thank
So
you.
one other thing I wanted to mention though with LinkedIn, and this is not new, but more about the a change for this year that's been coming, is the tone of LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn's always been the corporate social media, the big brother, the boring uncle, the boardroom, side of things. But the tone's changed. You might have noticed this. People talk about the Facebookization of LinkedIn. Now, I think that's a good thing, because people connect people, and LinkedIn gives you massive organic reach. I'll quote Gary Vee there, because he talks about this. If you know Gary Vaynerchuk, he has just discovered LinkedIn and he's raving about it. Now, it makes me giggle, because LinkedIn's been, an opportunity
One
for
of the
so long. Oh,
oldest,
it's older than
uh,
Facebook. You know,
It
it was
is,
launched
yeah.
a year before Facebook, so it's been around, but it evolves slowly but strategically. So the tone has changed, and a good example is the Australian bushfires. The way the community have engaged, the stories that have been shared. Now, it's not, it isn't Facebook, so everything has to have relevance. So when you do share that human side of you, that's the stuff that works. That's the stuff that engages people. But you want to think, why am I sharing this? Is it to showcase your personal brand, so people can get to know you, or is it just serving your own ego? So, I'm not saying the bushfires and ego are together, but the
Oh,
bushfires
but lots
has
of people
connected
are jumping
people.
on board, and it's it can be quite tacky.
Yeah, that's
I mean, my
yeah.
feeling is anyone who wants to get any sort of promotion at the moment, it seems to be putting on some kind of a benefit for the bushfires, and I always look at this and I kind of go, and I mean, probably a bit controversial here, but look, of course, there's loads and I mean, it's awful. It's absolutely awful, but it's, there are other causes out there. There are other things that are also pretty devastating that seem to just be very not
Mm,
so sort of fashionable or get the traction. So people are choosing
mm.
just to focus on this particular cause, which is a worthy cause. I'm not saying it's
Oh,
not, but
absolutely. And it's
mm.
certainly a cause I could have jumped onto with my business name being Wildfire Social
Oh,
Marketing.
well,
That would have been just
how'd
too
you miss that
tacky.
opportunity?
Oh, I know, but out of respect, I've actually stopped using like the fire emojis in some of my posts because I use them
Yeah.
as like a dot point, if I'm making a list, I'll use them. But I've actually just, because of, it's a bit sensitive, so I'm little bit conscious of that. Yeah, so you want to make sure you're being relevant, you're being real, and if you're going to post content, keep it on track. So let's
Yep.
move on to Facebook, Elsa.
Okay, so look, Facebook, crikey, as we know, Facebook changes like Melbourne weather. There are so many things that happen with Facebook, and 2019 was no exception. Look, I think the big thing that kind of impacts business is just how prevalent Facebook advertising became, and just also, the depth of which and the sophistication that Facebook advertising now has. I mean, it's just second to none. It's extraordinary. But I guess one of the big things is that, clearly they need to get a bit of money back in the coffers, and this has really hit business big time. I mean, many business pages on Facebook are just getting just a trickle of organic traffic. Engagement is down, and they really are wanting you to advertise and start putting your money, putting your hand in your pocket. One of the other, I mean, the other thing too is just the prevalence of stories. They've now introduced stories. Stories are really big. Businesses are using stories. So I think that's one of the things that again, has been a bit of a changer. But probably there are two other things that I think are possibly going to impact us more this year. Because Facebook advertising has been around for a while, it did reach another level of sophistication last year. But, and that is messenger marketing. So, moving on from a lot of the Facebook advertising. So, it used to be that kind of share a post style things, but really what's happening here is they are pushing you more towards the one to one direct marketing. And what we can see with with what Facebook's doing and now with their messenger marketing is it really is about another tool for direct marketing, for one to one. And I guess it's really watched this space. It's sort of just started to be a thing. We've got a couple of our colleagues who are now specialising and running training on that because it is a thing. So maybe watch out a little bit for messenger marketing. The third thing I just wanted to mention too was about Facebook groups. So, what we're finding here is that because of the lack of organic traffic or organic reach that's happening with Facebook, is that many businesses now well, there's a two-pronged approach to the groups, but many businesses may choose to run a private group as a way of getting to reach their followers or their tribe. So we're seeing a prevalence of those groups. And it is quite a good strategy to consider, particularly if you do have a large fan base and you are finding that your reach is a bit lower. And also, if you really don't have the budget to do Facebook advertising, then this can be another way of still reaching people on Facebook. The other thing too is that a lot of there's a sort of a rise in popularity of groups. People are sort of finding that they are enjoying speaking more to niche markets, to micro markets. So people are finding groups on particular topics that are of interest to them. So again, if you are maybe if you are a B2C business or a business to consumer business, this can really work for you. So that is something to consider is, not only setting up your own group, but maybe also just looking at what other groups are out there. Have you got anything that you'd like to add to some of that, Joe?
No, I think you've covered all the main things, and I think, like you said, with Facebook pages, unless you've always had good engagement, it is a challenge without paying to play, so to speak. But groups have offered a massive opportunity. In fact, I've actually reactivated one of my groups about LinkedIn on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Look,
because yeah,
well, because I'm certainly finding that many businesses are pretty desperate here. And I certainly know that if you haven't got a good individual following and you start setting up a company page now, look, it is very difficult to get traction. So, without putting your hand in your pocket and paying dollars, it has simply just changed there. There's only one other trend I'd like to mention, and that is something that we will discuss a little bit later, but it is again a bit of an impact on Facebook, and that is that certainly in the States, and I'm starting to see it a bit here, and I must even admit, even for myself, some people are just moving away from Facebook for mental health issues. For
mm,
many people, even just the posts on, the animals that were being impacted by bushfires was just too much for people. The constant news that they're being bombarded with. Sometimes it's about the comparison, that they feel if their life isn't going well, that they can actually find that Facebook and looking at Facebook actually is increasing anxiety and depression. And for that reason, a lot of people are choosing to unplug. And that's going to be a concern, really, if they're unplugging from a platform that you were working on. So it's just something to watch and monitor. There's nothing, it's not massive yet, but I think we will see a steady decline in, certainly there's no new uptake of Facebook, but we might start seeing a decline in the people actually using it.
mm,
Alrighty ho. Well, let's move on. And if anyone's got any questions about any of these, feel free to write them up on the questions,
mm.
and we'll get to them as we can. And if
Actually,
it's relevant,
well,
right
Well, on
as we.
questions, do have a question that was from the previous slide about LinkedIn. I'll just answer it
Mm,
quickly now. So Mark's asked about the events link, saying people don't necessarily know they have to go off site to book, and that's a really good
mm,
point. So when I mentioned the events feature and having able to have the link to book your event, yeah, people necessarily may not know they have to do that. So it's just a new habit and a new form of marketing that we need to get head around. But we've been doing that on Facebook for a while, so hopefully people get the gist that they need. If there's a ticket price, or even just to actually take that ticket, whether it's free or not, it's good to just have that process. So yeah, so thanks Mark for that question. Now I want to talk about another change to both Facebook and Instagram. And
mm,
who knows whether this will come to other platforms like LinkedIn. It hasn't yet, but it's that like count visibility that was removed last year. Now they did the test. I think Australia got the test, sort of what the rollout was, one of the first countries to have it. It was in September. And the aim of this was to improve how users feel about using the platform, for the very reasons Elsa just mentioned. I mean, when I saw those videos of koalas crying,
oh,
that's not
I
what I'm
can't
on
even.
Facebook for, but it's just, oh, it's horrendous.
I can't, do you know what? I can't even hear you say that. That's how distressed
Oh,
I get about
I
it,
know,
you know.
it's just
So,
awful.
yeah.
Plus, you've got the comparisonitis. I'm making up words now. Comparisonitis. I don't know. Whatever we call that word. Um, particularly in teenagers. So mental health's a big one. So there was a
Mm.
study done in 2018, the Pew Research study, where they found 43% of teens aged 13 to 17 in the US felt pressure to only post content that made them feel or look good. So you think about those, particularly those Instagram photos where everybody looks gorgeous, you know,
Oh,
and we've got the filters happening. On Facebook, everybody's having a wonderful time. They're on holiday, they're traveling, or they're speaking. I mean, I even get it. Oh, Joe, you're just so successful. You're always speaking at an event. But that's only a snippet of my life. But people will choose to see what they want to see. So the likes were one thing that particularly teens and young people were focusing on. How many likes their content was getting. Now we
yep.
can, as a business, we can still see that data on the back end, but it's no longer visible on the front end. So people can no longer see how many likes we've got on posts. So it's
Now,
yeah, it takes away the vanity metric, you know. Yeah.
sorry, I was just going to say, I've just launched a poll and I'm hoping
Mm.
that people can see this because I'm absolutely fascinated to know, do you think, not showing likes is a good idea? I'm quite fascinated to see what, whether that's something that you're in agreement to or not. So I'll just give that a little bit more time, and then I know I've got
Yeah.
to. So is everyone? Is that on people's screens? Yep,
Yep.
righty ho. Yep,
I can see
great.
it.
That's
All
okay.
good.
There we
So
go.
there we go.
It's collecting
Yeah.
responses. Yeah, I mean, because I've sort of, it's funny. I mean, I certainly agree with the concept of. I agree that it's it's it might be good to so that then there isn't that comparison going on with, oh
Yeah.
look, yeah, my bikini shot only got 3,000 likes. I actually think I'd be lucky to get any likes, but
Mm.
but the point
Actually,
is, that's possibly a good thing. But I've got to be
oh,
honest that for myself, I actually, and I think just looking here at the responses that are coming in. Now, I'm going to just close off the poll. So if you haven't had a chance yet to vote, I'm going to give you 5 more seconds, and then we're going to just close it off. Um, okay, righty ho. Oh, wow, this is an interesting result. All right, I'm closing it off. Okay, now I'm going to share. I think that's what I can do. Share the results. I hope that's right. Okay, let me know. Can everyone see
hmm.
the results?
Yep, we can sure
So
see
we're
them.
split 50-50, and that's actually really quite interesting because I certainly agree with the idea of not having that comparison can be very helpful for teens and for, again, for that sort of comparison side of things. But from my perspective, as a marketer, I like to look at posts and see which has attracted a really, a big reaction, so I can kind of look at, and sort of analyze and work out what was it about that post that made it so popular. So I actually think as a way of improving your content, it is great to be able to look at other people's posts and see which ones have got traction.
Hmm.
So we're not able
It's
to
it,
do that at the moment.
and
We can
I mean,
only
we
do
can
it for
always look
our
at,
own.
well, that's right. We can always look at our own, but you're right. Sometimes you want to see what's working for other people, particularly people in your industry, just to kind of get an insight. But you can no longer do that. So from a business perspective, but I think from a personal perspective, just taking away that competitiveness and that yeah, that sort of need to keep up with the Joneses is a good thing. The other thing, just as a side that I reckon it's time to remove is read receipts on messages, because I see this a lot with particularly teenagers where, someone's read your message and people in business, but they haven't responded immediately because we're in that immediate kind of, you know, mindset. And if we don't respond, what's wrong? What's going on? Why haven't they responded? Then I think
Mm.
that can be actually a bad thing for mental health as well. So yeah.
Oh, look, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it was an interesting game changer though. I was quite fascinated by that, and I'm sure that we're going to see a little bit more, particularly around privacy as well, because that's a really big issue for people on social media, in particular Facebook. So
Mm.
I think we may see some more changes that come around. Uh, yeah, that they come out trying to address some of those issues. And again, it might just have to be a watch this space. I mean, as I mentioned, yeah, Facebook is constantly evolving to the point that, it's even really difficult for people who specialize in Facebook to keep up with it. But anyway, okay, well, let's move on to the next one, which is, of course, video, YouTube, and social video. All right, well, I think, as you know, in this country, we've been rolling out the NBN for what seems like decades. It probably hasn't been, but it seems like forever. And I think we can sort of say that we're getting really to the point where this is starting to impact social media. In particular, having smart TVs that you can now just stream YouTube on your smart TV in your lounge room has really increased the number of people who are using YouTube either as an alternative TV station, but also just, while they're there as part of their entertainment. So to me, this has some very interesting ramifications or opportunities for business. I mean, if you're in a business that you can provide either educational or entertaining videos that kind of work in with your product. I think there's huge opportunities there. What are you thinking about that, Joe?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking over the last few years about the mobile growth. So there's a stat that 75% of all video plays are on mobile. But with smart TVs and YouTube, I mean, only late last year I started using YouTube as an option to watch TV shows, where UK TV shows are publishing their show directly onto YouTube rather than having to go through Netflix or any other channel. So free to air is becoming a bit redundant, really. So it means you can tap into that older market who maybe aren't as mobile savvy, who don't like to watch a small screen. They're watching the big screen. So it's that diversity. So it gives an opportunity to get really creative with your content. I mean, creating a series of content and having that entertainment factor to your content as well, so it becomes part of that lounge room experience or wherever your TV happens to be. But yeah, video. But one of the things to mention about video, particularly now on mobile, so smart TV, obviously you're sitting there with sound, you're listening to it because you're in that zone. On a mobile, a lot of people are not using sound because they're in a they may be in a place where they can't use sound. Now, 87% of marketing professionals are using video. This is according to Wise Owl last year, and they're predicting that by 2022, which is not that long away, really, 82% of global internet traffic will come from video streaming and downloads. That's according to Cisco. And if you think about what we do, I mean, we're no longer just watching free to air. Like I said, I mean, Netflix. If you look at the social comments, what should I watch on Netflix? We're looking for recommendations, and Netflix is just one thing. So there's so much you can do. But if you think
And
about
I mean, I think.
social, yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to
Sorry.
say, and particularly with the how-tos, I mean, the how-tos is that's sort of where a lot of YouTube started, but people are
Mm.
still wanting to do that. So whether it's, how to bake a cake, how to wash the dog, how to, and I just think there's a huge opportunity there to now more than ever to get some of that stuff out there
Mm. And it
via,
hits all
via video.
ages. I mean,
Yep.
young people, that's their go-to. If they want to know how to do something, they just go to YouTube. That's their, native way of thinking. Older people are doing it. You've got smart appliances. You've got your instructions in the kitchen. You've probably got your iPod in the kitchen showing you how to bake a cake as you're baking it. So,
Yeah.
there's so much you can do with it.
And I think one thing, and I'd be interested in your perception on this. My feeling is that whilst we used to have the cam, the amateur camera, was kind of okay. I think people are wanting it a little bit. They're not as tolerant of something that's not kind of. I think the polishing of a video is starting to improve. Like I don't think you're seeing so many real amateur hour videos. What's your
Mm.
feel on that?
Yes, well, yes and no. I mean, but then again, if you look at the devices, the smartphone we've got in our pocket is pretty powerful. I mean, if you've got that coupled with a good old tripod, which you can get for a few dollars on eBay, and a microphone. Now, whether it's your headset that comes with your phone or you've actually invested in a microphone, like I've just got the Rode Wireless Go, it is brilliant. So for under $300, you've got a fantastic microphone that's wireless. My setup's not that, exotic and professional. I mean, there is a place for professional videos, absolutely, but it's about that high quality. But the big one with people not watching sound is you've got to think about your platform and use subtitles where relevant. So,
Absolutely. Yep,
yeah,
and there's so much software now that can do that for you so easily. So it's a bit of a no-brainer, really. Yeah, but that's a really
yeah,
good point. All right,
yeah.
so let's go on to some of the new things.
Yeah, so while we're talking video, I just want to talk about these two platforms, which are short form video platforms. Now, TikTok's been around for a little while. I'm going to admit something. I've decided not to be on this one personally. I haven't got time for this one, and I'm not 15. And I'm not into dancing and singing. But if your market are young, and I'll take that away. If your market are just enjoying that entertainment and fun part of social, then TikTok's probably for you. And I've seen a lot of people my age using TikTok. I'm just decided not to. But the brand new one is Byte, which is a competitor for TikTok. Byte was just released late last year. Now, I don't know if you remember Vine, Elsa. Vine, I know the young people were talking, you have YouTubers and you have
Yeah.
Viners. And then Viners got kind of closed
No,
down in 2016.
no,
So
I
it
think
was
I
still a
clearly
young,
wasn't hanging out with the young people back
it was a
then.
young people platform, definitely. And it was this super short videos, and I just really didn't get it.
Yeah.
But Bytes by the same people, and you're creating 6-second videos that loop. So I
Mm.
signed up. I'm going to give it a crack. I'm not really sure what
All
I'm going to do
right.
with it yet. I'm certainly not. I'm just skipping TikTok personally, but
But
it's
you
that
are an
whole.
enthusiast. You're a social media enthusiast. And I think one of the things is that every year there will always be a new something. And again, one of the challenges and one of the things that people need to look at is kind of go, well, really, just because it's new, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be on it. And I'm
Yeah.
just going to launch another poll because I love a bit of a poll because I'm fascinated to know what our listeners today feel about new social media platforms. So I'm just going to launch the poll now. So the question is, how do you feel about new social media platforms? I'm interested to know if you're someone who gets really excited, or if you actually just find it overwhelming, or maybe you just don't really care. I mean, I know for many people that, and I find this in my work, that people will go, oh, what do you think about this? Like Snapchat was always the big one that everyone would go, Snapchat, what do you think about Snapchat? And I'm going, okay, now, who are your clients? And it's like the government or something. And I'm thinking, I think you can pretty much give Snapchat a very wide berth. But it takes up energy even sort of going, oh, I've got to be on Snapchat. I always find it, it's one of those things that you've got to be mindful of, that there's always going to be people who say, you've got to be on this. And usually they're the people who are on it. And unless your customers are those people, you might want to just let it ride. But
Well,
again,
that's
this is
right.
something that you probably need to review every year. Am I on the right platforms? Because if you're not on the right platforms, it might be time in order to improve to get off those platforms. All right, here we go. 5 more seconds if you haven't done it yet. Oh, I feel
And
like
just to
I'm
pop
I
a
I feel like
little
I'm here with my tribe looking at these results.
just a little stat while we're waiting for this. TikTok has got 1.5 billion users. That's double LinkedIn. Just saying. And 66% are under 30. There you go.
Yep, there we go. Well, that's the same as Insta. Insta is they've sort of said that people of all ages are across social media. You cannot say that the oldies are not on social media. It's across. They are definitely across social media. It's just that they're all across different social media, and that's what's so important, isn't it? To identify and know your customer. Okay, have I shared that poll
Yeah,
results? Can you all see that? I know.
yeah.
So I'm sort of feeling like you're my tribe, beautiful listeners, because my first reaction is, oh God, not another one. Um, or I just go, yeah, yeah, yeah. So sorry, Joe. I think you're in the minority here. You clearly didn't
Well,
vote on this one because
well,
you do
that's
get
right.
the
Well, I do get excited, but more for the opportunity. It doesn't mean I'm going to use the platforms though, because I do practice the get good or get off strategies that we teach.
vote. Oh, that's very good. All right. Well, look, let's just keep moving on here. Um, Now, I'll just get to the next one. So, I guess, what we're doing is we always are about just trying to make social media make sense to you, really, isn't it? That is what we try and do. So, we're going to come up and give you a few tips for 2020. So, let's go through them. Well, shall I start with the first one? I think, I'll start off with the first one, which is it's really important to be realistic. Whenever you are considering your social media, you've got to think about it and go, well, what do I have to bring to social media? Like any form of marketing, there is some form of investment. And it is really important to think, have I got a lot of time that I can devote to social media? Do I have some money that I can devote to social media, or do I not have any money in the budget for social media? And then thirdly, you really need to think about, do you have the skills that's required? I mean, we have talked about the different platforms and in particular, sort of Facebook, some of the groups, using some of their groups, that can take a lot of time. And you also do need to sort of have some skills in group facilitation as well in order to do that well. Likewise, if you're wanting to, connect on LinkedIn, that is going to take some time. So they're the things to think about. What are you bringing to the table? And what is going to work, sorry, what am I trying to say? So of those resources, how is that going to feed in to the different platforms? So that's number one. So then I guess the next thing would be is being strategic with all of that. So you've got to be realistic and say, well, if I don't have a lot of time, I've got to get pretty strategic. And it might be that you may not be able to do as many platforms as you might like. You might just have to say, you know what, I'm going to focus on this particular platform and get some traction on that. Or you might say, all right, I'm actually going to get better at this particular platform and just really get better results, better return on investment. And then this is part of your strategy will also be about how you're going to spend your time. Social media continues to be a time zapper if you let it. So coming up with ways of being time smart. I mean, it might work for you to be in a pod on LinkedIn. It might work. That might be a very effective thing for you to do, to just spend, be it you might do, I don't know, half an hour a week or something, and that might work for you. But you also don't want to be reinventing the wheel. You want to be time smart by repurposing content, getting really clear about, well, what am I, when am I going to post? You might use some scheduling, as part of being time smart. But it's really important, most of all, to just be organized. And part of that comes from your strategy. Over to you, Joe.
That's right. You don't want to be a slave to the platform because you'll end up being resentful and you're just not going to get the results. And if you try and get too smart and automate and systemize, you're not being you. So the fourth one is be you, because people want to know you. Now, if you're a financial planner or an accountant or a plumber and you're just trying to be what you think you should be, you're just going to be boring. I mean, you're not going to stand apart from the other person down the road. So let your personality shine through and keep it real, but also keep it relatable to your audience, because your audience is specific to you and you know them. And as we always say, people connect people. Be engaged. So while we talk about pods, that's one way of engaging, but it's not real, is it? And it's not really necessarily strategically engagement. So don't just drop content and run. It's not about posting a lot of content. It's actually about sticking around and engaging with people that take the time to engage. But also it's about engaging with other people. So think about who are the people that matter most to you and taking the time to go to their content and continuing that conversation on. It applies to LinkedIn and it applies to every platform. And finally, it's about being brave. Being brave, having the courage to find your voice, because often, particularly on a platform like LinkedIn, because it is professional and it's so visible, some people feel a little bit nervous. They don't know who to be or how to be, or they feel like they might be judged. They might not share photos on Instagram because, they don't have the thighs for the bikini that, they're seeing. But being real, now if we think about
Let's
being
hope that they're
real,
not doing business in their bikinis.
well, let's hope not. But if we think about Celeste Barber, who's just built massive, a massive successful campaign for the bushfires, but she's very real and funny in what she shares. She's not the skinny, skinny mini in a bikini. She's actually owning it and being who she is and having a bit of fun with it. But what can you learn from that? Well, just being yourself and having the courage to be you, because people will back you if you're you and support you. And the ones that don't aren't your customers. They don't, and it's generally about them.
Absolutely. And going on that brave theme, it's also important to have the courage to get off platforms that aren't working for you. That's often one of the things that people find quite challenging is, they're finding that their time's being zapped. Maybe they're on a particular platform which isn't working, and they start to worry about, oh, but what's going to happen if I get, if I am not on this platform? Well, sometimes you've just got to make the cut. And we've certainly been working with people over the years who have just been incredibly relieved when they go, you know what? I'm just not doing that. I'm just not doing it. I mean, part of me is certainly for a period of time, I'm thinking of just really dialing back the personal Facebook page, because I've got another thing I need to focus on, and I do find Facebook a little bit distracting. So I've just got to work on a strategy for how to sort of pull back a little bit on that, and focus a bit more on some of the other platforms that are a bit more appropriate for me. So I encourage you all to do the same as well. Be brave. Okay, so finally, sort of as we wrap up, and we're ready to take questions at any time at this point, so feel free to start sending them in if you have any.
That's right. And I have a think right now, what are you going to do this year differently? Because you could try and do all the platforms. We've mentioned TikTok, we've mentioned Byte, brand new platform. If you're going to try and do it, now I'm not going to try and do Byte, but I'm investigating it to see how it would fit in with my clients. That's why I'm on everything. I'm not doing everything well. You want to do one really well. Pick one that's your sort of anchor platform. So for me, it's LinkedIn. It's a no-brainer. I mean, I do have to teach LinkedIn, but that's where, for me, the best value of time is. I've got different purposes for different platforms, but think about what's your primary platform, and then what are your secondary platforms. So for me, LinkedIn's my primary, YouTube's a secondary, Twitter's a secondary, Facebook's a secondary. Instagram is a bit of fun. Snapchat I use to create video content, and Byte I'm going to be playing with. Pinterest is great for web traffic. TikTok is not even on my radar. I'm just not doing that one because I've strategically decided. So what for you? I'd love to know, is there a platform you're going to focus on this year? And which one or two or three are you just going to park? Maybe it's just a landing page. So when I say secondary or even thirdly, I would say, what's so you got primary, secondary, and what's the other thing? Third.
Tertiary.
Tertiary.
Isn't it
Oh God,
tertiary?
my brain. Tertiary. It might just be there's a landing page so you can be found, so people can reference you. And I Get Good or Get Off program, we've got a model about why you do social media, and you might use it as a business tool to be found, and that's it. If I could turn off my Facebook page messages, I would, because I don't like them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, look, absolutely. And I mean, that's like, I don't, I do not do Instagram, because I'm just like, look, at this stage, what I'm going to get from that is it's not as big as, sort of Facebook and LinkedIn, but I'm sort of thinking maybe I'm going to focus a little bit more on LinkedIn this year. But again, it is about getting strategic, and maybe it is just about putting some effort into one and seeing the traction. Or maybe what you do is you decide for a couple of months, I'm going to go full bore, and then see which one gets the most traction. They're sort of things to consider. Okay. Well, look, I mean, I guess, there's a couple of things we mentioned earlier, that we were not going to leave you high and dry without some what you can do next if you'd like to, because there's nothing worse than if you're kind of all fired up but with nowhere to go. So what we've got here is we've got a couple of different choices for you. as you move forward. Now, you can always just continue doing what you've always done. But I think, as we always know, if you do that, then it really, you're not going to necessarily get a different result from what you had last year. So another option is to learn more. And without a doubt, if you're wanting to go a bit deeper, dive deeper into some of the platforms or even into your social media to have more success, then you probably do need to learn more, because it's through the knowledge that you can get smarter with it, and you can certainly maximize your time. And then I guess that the other thing is, you can always get someone to do it for you. If you really feel like, oh God, I just can't stand it. I know it's important, but I really can't be bothered doing it. It's always one of the things that you can outsource, or you can outsource elements of it. Now, we don't always believe that, you might want to say, help get your strategy developed for you, or you might want to sort of have someone help you with or do your content for you. We always talk about the engagement side of it really does need to come from you. It's very difficult to have someone else doing your engagement. I've seen that actually as a bit of a trend on LinkedIn this year, the number of messages that have come through, and it's not the person, it's their PA or something, and it's just hideous.
Mhm.
So that's certainly it. And the other option is that you can have people do it with you. So work together with a marketing coach, such as, Joe or myself, and where we do it with you. So, there's certainly ways that you can improve your social media and get some different results. Anything you want to add to that, Joe?
No, you've said it all. I completely agree with you. And you know, getting help from someone, whether it's DIYing, doing an online course like our program, or getting one of us or both of us, or your own coach to coach you, is the best way you're going to get results on social, but without getting overwhelmed.
Well, I think it's the same with anything in business. It's just the more you learn, the more you do, the more you review, the more you improve. And
Oh,
that's just
that's
it.
almost a rhyme, Elsa. That's
That
so
was actually
cute.
pretty good, wasn't it? I just made that up. So there we go. I must be on fire. Um, I shouldn't really say that anymore, should I? Because it can be literally. But look, what
Mm.
we do also have is we both help businesses individually through training and coaching services. So there's an opportunity really to get info, know-how, and build your strategy and content plan to get your social media sorted. So we have a special offer today. We have combined these four modules together, and we're calling it the Get Sorted Pack. And it normally retails, this is an online training program, it normally retails at $546, but today it is $249. So if that is something that is of interest to you, we've got the URL down the bottom there that you can go and check out. We will also give you the electronic version of our Get Good and Get Off book as part of that special package. And as I did mention, we do have a freebie. So we're really happy to also give you, just so that you can check it out and see see whether it works for you, which is lesson one, is just free. So you can go on and just get lesson one and pay no more if that's what you'd like to do. But otherwise, we really recommend that for $249, you're going to get more than enough value to really make it worth your while. So, Joe, you've just put that in the chat box, that link to
I
make it nice
sure
and easy
have.
for people. So
And you've got both
use
the
that link to
versions
get the
there.
free lesson and also the paid version if you'd like. So I think now we're
Absolutely.
really up to some questions. So if people have got some questions, we've got some more moments now to answer them. So you can ask us anything about any questions you might have about social media, any comments you'd wanted to make, just anything at all, really, before
Now
we
there's a
wrap
question.
up
I'm
and
just
have lunch.
um, the chat. There's a question here from Monica. She says, we all know that social media trends, we all know that social media tends to follow trends and they come and go. In light of this, what's your opinion will be the must-have social media platform for 2020?
Oh,
Well,
wow, that's a
I
good
know my
question.
answer to that one, but I'll let you answer that, Elsa.
Well, the way I would answer it, first of all, is the number one thing is it really depends on who your customer base is
Mm,
and what platform are they engaging on. Because social media ultimately is about engaging with your prospective customers or continuing to engage with your existing customers. So we can say what platforms we want to go on to or what we think are great platforms to be on for this year, but that's because it makes sense to our marketing strategy and who we are wanting to engage with. Having said
yeah.
that, I certainly think from a business perspective, if you are wanting to do Facebook advertising, then you absolutely positively must be engaging and using the Facebook platform for business. So,
Yeah.
you can't do the advertising without really engaging in the medium. So that would be my answer to that. And then the second one is I think that LinkedIn seems to be hitting its stride at the moment and seems to be, for people, particularly doing business to business, it seems to definitely be the place to be playing. Over to you, Joe. What's your thought?
Absolutely, and I think you've hit the nail, well, a couple of nails on the head there about strategies. It's about understanding your audience, but saying what you just said about advertising, advertising is not a quick fix. You might have a budget for advertising, but the number of times I see ads, particularly on LinkedIn, when people are using that strategy, where they drop an ad and then they're not managing the engagement, and and that's the type of content that's going to get the negative impact, if any. LinkedIn's a very positive space in general, but I've seen ads from organizations that just kind of jar the news feed and no one's managing it. So definitely do that. But yeah, for me, if your ideal clients are professionals and they're searching on Google, which is pretty much everybody, then LinkedIn is your platform because LinkedIn is indexed by Google. It ranks really well for your name. You can get it to rank for your keywords. So it's a no-brainer. Now, it might not be your primary platform, but it certainly should be on your secondary platforms, I believe, unless you're in a retail, in a business,
Yeah,
in
a
a physical
B2C.
location, and you don't need it. But if people are Googling you, it gives you a free opportunity to take up a rank of Google. So it's a
Yeah.
no-brainer. Now, you might just not use it. So that's my answer. But it's understanding your audience and where
And
they
it's also
are.
understanding where social media fits into your overall strategy. For some
Mm,
people, and you learn this in our sort of platform selection and get sorted pack, is that we talk about the different ways and reasons for why you might be on social media. And one of them can be just search engine optimization, it can be just being found.
Yep.
But for another reason, it might be just that you've already got a website, but you want to get some more traffic to your website. So it really depends on your reasoning, and that is different for everyone. And I know that people just want the one answer, the cookie cut approach, but you're not going to find any cookie cutting here. It just doesn't work like that.
Mm.
All right, well, I reckon we're almost at the end here. Some terrific questions that have come up throughout today. And if you are a little bit shy and have got some questions that you would like to ask us offline, then you're most welcome to. Please just answer to any of the emails that you've received about this webinar, and we're more than happy to answer those, or go to our Get Good and Get Off uh, website. Oh, let me get to those, our contact details, so that you can find us here. And we're more than happy to answer questions that you might have. Other than that, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Just know that if you missed any part of it, you will receive a video recording, and we look forward to maybe catching up with you at our next webinar or one of our workshops or online.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.